Welcome to this morning's event, History Makers, Women, and the 116th Congress. What an exciting and special way to celebrate Women's History Month. I'd like to begin by thanking our sponsors, Wells Fargo.
It's really cool to see some of the change that's happening in one of the most visible places in America. Women are enacting change for working parents on Capitol Hill with baby changing tables, in members-only bathrooms, nursing stations around the building, and congressional schedules that are flexing to help not only women but men who are managing families and responsibilities and being full people as they lead our country.
All your lives have changed. You've now transitioned from the campaign trail to Capitol Hill. What has surprised you about life on Capitol Hill?
I look around and I think of how long we've had women in Congress, how long we've had minorities in Congress, and just now we're so excited that we've reached the 20% threshold for women.
I think the thing that's most surprising to me is just how hard people work here on the Hill. The culture here is an incredibly hard-working culture, and definitely out in our communities, the biases that people who are here in Washington are not terribly hard workers, that they aren't terribly committed, that they just come here to sort of benefit from the taxpayers, and it couldn't be more false.
What made you launch your campaign, and did some people say, what are you doing?
I mean, some people thought I couldn't raise the money. That was the biggest criticism that I faced. But I've been organizing for close to 20 years. I've worked on lots of campaigns. I've been in Indian country, making sure that the most underrepresented people have a voice in our politics. And I just, nobody could deny how hard I've worked for the last 20 years.
I am one of the lucky ones who had a spouse with a good job who could help sustain the family, a home that we could refinance to pay off debt, and I was lucky. There's a reason why we don't have even more diversity, because the system is set up in a way that only certain types of folks can run.
Our front page story is that cracks are emerging in the Democratic caucus. What's the solution, Congresswoman? What do you think of how you get everybody back on the same page like you were on the shutdown?
I actually reject the narrative overall that the Democratic Party's divided. We're feisty and unruly, but I don't think we're divided.
Were you surprised that you were the only Republican female elected?
I was disappointed because there were some really sharp women running this time and they just didn't make it. There was an incredible amount of money poured into races against women and Republican women. Yes, I am the only one. We've got a terrific group of guys, and Carol.
I think we still have that issue of many women feeling I'm not qualified to do it. And yet they are. They have the life experiences. And I think we have to sit down with women and explain to them why they would be good at what they're doing.
I believe in the Reagan motto of it can be done. So I would never allow nobody to try to diminish my self-esteem. So we need to sponsor a lot of women and girls, not just to run for political positions or careers, but as well in the private sector, in the sports, in every area.
So we've been talking about how 2018 has been called the Year of the Woman because of all of these historic changes. And you had an interesting op-ed in the LA Times basically saying that, hey, that's not telling the full story. Well, we called 1992 the Year of the Woman, and then we got all the way up to 20% nearly 30 years later, right? So we have to be careful about saying the job is done in any one single election year.
We do a woman-to-woman national tour, get hundreds of women to turn out and so be counted in. And I'm taking the information back to the men and being like, listen, we have to change how we talk as Republicans.
We really do need recognition on what women's issues are. We need support for families. And if women don't drive that conversation, it will not happen.